Public meeting order to discuss our 2025 departmental budgets, January 22nd at 2:30 p.m. Please call roll.
Mr. Malloy.
Here.
Mr. Bernard.
Here.
Mr. Hernandez.
Here. So I'm going to turn this over to Auditor Martha Yoder. And Martha?
So last week, we addressed you, we had provided you guys a packet, kind of went over how we came up with everything. If you'll look up on the screen, Christy has a simplified version of what we gave you last week. And I had her do this so that you, as we go through each line, departments and public officials or offices, we can do one of two things. We can put a percentage of plug in a percentage. So go down to CSEA or one of the other ones.
These ones I set up are for the dollar amount of
Okay.
the request, the departments are more for the percentage. So
Oh,
for
yeah.
example, if you were to award your department 10%, 10 in there, and it would calculate what the 10% would be. And then down here at the end, it shows how much we still have left to go,
Right.
what's left.
So the percentages though, those.
The department appropriations, and then for the request from the non-general fund departments and the entities, that would be the dollar amount. And the amount that they've requested is on the left
And
hand
if you
side.
put the dollar, if you put a dollar in a million, will also then generate what the percentage is.
Yeah.
So we'll go through and you guys can, I mean, that's up to how you guys want to handle it. But if it were me, I would go through line by line and kind of decide, make some decisions. Mr. Bernard?
Yeah, Martha, I have a question. Do we know what the mandated costs are out of that budget? I like to go
So
through,
the mandated ones are at the top.
well, I like to go through and kind of deduct that from where we're at.
I did.
That's right
That's
I
already,
did.
it's
I
already
already
there.
put them in the column.
It's already there.
So where they at there?
The 03 through 5200.
So here is the 2025 request from the departments and entities and stuff. And then here's a column that says 2025 awarded, and this is what you guys are going to be awarded. I already moved the mandated amounts over to the awarded
And-
column
and it
because
has
we
the
don't
percentages.
really have it.
And then she also did that with the $2 million clerk of courts. That's already,
That should be separate.
yeah, well, it's up there, but it's part of it. We've talked about this. We had a long discussion about this last week, but it's 3%. So of the total, it's included in the total available and it's included in what we're allocating, right? So I would suggest, it's up to you, that we start with CSEA and just work our way down. And then we'll make adjustments. I would say, to me, what I would do is go ahead and start and come up with percentages and see where we're at the end. And then if you need to do further cuts, then we can talk about that.
And I don't disagree with that, but Alex, you and I had a conversation at the last meeting concerning the commissioner's budget. And we are currently at 23.52, I believe, percent. We had discussed the possibility of being able to cut that budget. And I believe you mentioned somewhere between 15 to 17%.
Yeah, so I did the numbers, and just on my own. We can get that down to anywhere between 15 and 17. I see a lot of movement and bring them.
And
Yes,
And this is what we're going to be asking each department to do
I
as
understand.
you pick the dollar amount. We're gonna go back to them and say, this is the amount that they've awarded you. Here's what is already in there. Please make the cuts and then get it back to us. So that is what you'll be needing to do at that time, once you make that decision.
And the only reason why I brought that up is because at that point, if we reduce that, we would come up with a larger budget.
You think so for example, you're saying.
So if you just put it at
17%.
Right.
Let's just say, and that's what we
What
have.
does
I'm
that-
sorry, I just put that in the.
I'm curious as to what it would free up as to what we had discussed.
Then that's 11,000. Now realize though, that, please realize that this 17% would be
Is that what you?
increased. Because a lot of these mandated amounts in
Right.
department requests are included in your budget. They're already included in there.
Yes, and I saw that.
Okay,
Yeah.
So when you say
So-
17%, it's got
so
it.
you
Yeah.
may wanna go more down to
So-
the 15.
I'm not really comfortable with anything that you're not, I think we need to go
Well, I'm
through it.
just, I
But-
don't know.
I think we gotta go department
Yeah,
by
let's go
department, this
department.
percentage thing is the wrong, isn't the way to do it.
Yeah, I think if we start at top and then work our way down, but we'll get there.
CSEA, they're asking $600,000. With the $600,000, that would give them a positive balance estimated at the end of the year based on their budget of $427,000.
So,
As an FYI.
Last year they were at 475.
yeah, commissioners, they were at 475 last year, which was
Right.
0.67. I think that's how we wanna look at it. The average is 0.41 over 3 years. So I really do appreciate how you guys are doing this first and foremost. I think this is very helpful. So what they're projecting, what they're asking for is 0.90%,
Right.
90%. What you need to do, 0.9%, is figure out if their average for the past 4 years was 0.41, right? Last year was 0.67, what do you want that percentage to be? Now, again, I threw a number in there, but this is your budget, so I want you to be,
So for CSEA, dog kennel, and 911, just an FYI, if you go with that percentage and we put that in there and they're already over budget, they're gonna be coming back to, they're gonna have to cut, and they're gonna be coming back to you in the middle of the year. So that's why I've already done the budget for some of these non-general fund ones, and that's what I'm saying. If you were to give them the $600,000, that would give them a positive balance of $427,000. So you could cut that down and they still have a positive balance using the dollar amount on this one, not the percentage.
So the
Same thing with, dog kennel with the 260,000, that only gives them a positive balance of $27,000. So
so on these, I had done a number. Are you
Okay.
saying that that is what you think the way to go on these ones?
on the request for the departments and the entities.
So on this one, so
Yeah,
I was
this
not wrong
section.
to say a number,
Exactly,
okay, I wanna make sure, cause I have a
And,
number,
and
but
you
it's up
can
to the
do
board.
either one.
So
You can do either one, but I just want you to know that if you
just
don't
to
give,
start, and see where it makes sense.
Right, well, and
What's
as
that
she
percentage?
said, with the balance,
You have to see,
we
it'll
can figure
calculate
it out. But here's the thing, that's 550, whatever the budget. But keep in mind that they, with the budget that they submitted, that gives them a positive variance
this one right here,
of 4,
see if fund 006,
Uh-huh.
their cash balance beginning of year is $427,000. Their period of encumbrance is 686. Their estimated resources for this year is $6 million. That includes the request from you guys. And then their appropriations are a little over 6 million, giving them a positive balance of 427. So if you wanted to go a little less. then
So
like-
if we gave them 200,000, they're still gonna be in a positive budget at the end of the year.
but it's gonna
Why
be-
give them 600?
well,
I mean, those
That's
ones
what
are.
they're saying. I'm not saying
That's
give
not
them
what we're
600, that's what they requested.
Right.
I'm giving you the information. so
Right,
you
well, what
guys-
I'm saying is, let's let them give them what they can operate on, but nobody needs to have a positive budget at the end of the year when we have departments that are gonna be operating in the negative at the end of the year.
I would suggest,
So maybe we take an approach, commissioners, and I don't know, again, it's your budget, but maybe we start, see where we end, and then you can go back through again and readjust. This is all simply
It's
about,
not set in
we
stone.
can't get stuck on one thing right now, we
Right,
gotta
but
plug a
that
number
we
in
need to
and
get stuck on right away. If they're gonna have a positive
Well, I agree.
427 right
I
now,
agree. I can definitely
then
tell
let's
you.
take 400 off there and let them
You
have
can
a
cut
positive.
that money,
of
but
27.
Carol, how much you cut it? Can we
I would
maybe
say 300.
200,000, okay.
I'd say 250.
I
It still
was
gives them
200.
74,000 positive.
Gentlemen,
It's like
It's the three of you, it's the three of you.
I think we cut as much as we can.
Put 200,000, right? Is that what you're
But they
saying?
may be coming back to you later in the year.
They may,
Because we-
every department will be coming back to us.
Yes, they're not a general fund department and they don't,
So,
make a
put
profit, they don't
250
have
in
any.
there, Chris, put 250.
And then there's your percent, commissioner. So that does put them below the 0.41 that they've averaged the past 3 years. Do we all, we're all above it? Correct.
and we're talking about percentage.
But that's what they averaged the last 3 years, but then they had 400,000 left over at the end of the year
Very
they
true.
never spent.
And that's why I'm giving you that
That's why-
information.
That's
That's
why
what
you're
we
going
need.
a little lower.
I'm giving that information so you can make that decision.
Sure. That's fair.
Dog kennel, they're asking for 260,000. With that, they would have a balance of 27,000 at the end of the year estimated. So they started out the year with 65,000. They have 21,000 in carryover encumbrances. They're estimating revenue of $632,000, appropriating 649,000, leaving them with a balance of approximately 27,000.
So I would say give them 240. That still keeps them in the,
140 percent over budget, they would have to cut
Right.
a lot,
no,
yeah.
I said 240.
Okay, 911 emergency, they're asking for $2.7 million. Here's their budget. They are started the year with 1.2 million in cash, 105,000 in carryover encumbrances, estimating revenue of $4 million, which is including the request to you. Appropriating a little over $4 million and leaving them with 1.1 million. Positive carryover.
What did we give them last year?
2.382,
2.3.
2.3.
Yeah.
Even 3.38% last year.
I would say in that department, because we are increasing employees, we know that. We should have less overtime if, as every new employee they hire. They need to get to 40 employees, we're only at 22. So I'd like to leave a little bit of meat on that, maybe give them 2.5 this year. So they can absorb those new employees if they can hire them. If they can't hire them, they're gonna save money.
I would agree with that. I think that's important.
They're gonna have a big capital expense when we do move them and change over of things. We don't need to jump to that ahead until we're full staff.
Let's keep rolling and see where we're at, right? The TID is requesting $6,000. Transportation Improvement District.
You want me to address that?
I would just think 6,000, we need 6,000
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
if we're gonna operate.
It's just that what we utilize that for, you know, we didn't take any, market. We didn't take anything in 24 at all. We did some in 23 for our, kind of our startup stuff. This is just a little bit that allows us to have, the outside attorney do all of the, and we have to have an outside attorney because the conflict with the prosecutor's office. Draw up the things that we need to do in order to make sure that we are compliant with the law. It's not really much. Gentlemen,
Next one, that's not.
Next one is soil conservation. They're asking for 175,000, and I believe that's their usual annual request.
gentlemen,
I would stick with
Leave
it.
it, leave it.
They've never asked for an increase since I've been here the last couple of years.
Metro Parks asking for 136,381. I believe this is similar to what they asked for last year.
I say, right now, let's skip
This
that,
one?
and move down. Let's skip that right now, move down and see where we're gonna be.
Trumbull Neighborhood Partners is asking for 50,000, and I believe this is similar to what they requested in the past.
What do they have to carry over, or what do they use their
They're-
50 for?
They're not part of the county, part of our financial statements. They're the separate
they're
entities.
separate.
They are, but we gave them 2.1 million or whatever in ARPA money. If they have other monies coming in, what is the 50,000 for?
So let's look at what they submitted on their budget.
They would have had it.
Anything last year, there was a resolution that was passed in 24 where they were asking for 50,000 in 25 and 26 for some grants. And it was, I think that was approved. You go back.
Do we have a file on that? Do we have anything there? Nothing?
Sure.
Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership,
Sheriff Taylor.
Sheriff Taylor, Accounts Payable Clerk, Trumbull County Commissioner's Office. This is a match grant. So it's a total of 100,000, but it's 50,000 one year and 50,000 the second year. But we're getting grant money.
Do you have the journal action on it?
Yes. So. No, this is, we haven't paid
It was
yet.
approved in 24.
Yeah.
25.
Gotcha. It was approved December 4th.
Okay.
It was for 2 calendar years, 25 and 26, as local match funds to Trumbull Neighborhood Partnership.
I'll put the 50,000 in there for the 1 year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, that's
Sure.
summer.
Thank you very much. Valley Vision is also one that you
Already approved.
already approved.
So put the 500,000 in there. The Historical Society is asking for 25,000. And this, is a $10,000 increase over what they had asked for last year. They had asked for 15,000 last year.
Are they carrying anything over 15?
They're not part of it.
Oh, yeah,
they're
they're-
part of their separate entity.
Yeah, and they had, they did present.
Yes,
They did.
please.
They were at the budget.
Commissioners, they're asking for just what they're asking for. The past 4 years, commissioners have graciously granted them $15,000 annual allocation. Beyond this, they are asking for an increase to 2. I just want to figure out what the increase is. We did show it. Um,
25% extra thousand from last year.
They were asking for some capital expenditures, but that's not what this is, so I just gotta figure out where that 25,000 should be. They're asking to increase. Oh, this was for the, I remember now, the science fiction, does that ring a bell, guys?
Yeah.
Science fiction,
The museum.
museum. I can see that right there. Everything outside of that, there is a additional. They're asking for 10,000, Trumbull County Commissioners usually give 15,000, yeah, that's why they were asking for the. Okay,
I did, now that you say that, I remember.
yeah, and I can see another line where there's another museum contract they're asking to increase and membership dues. So it looks like everything mainly attributed to just another project they want to do. If that
The
brings
reason that
that,
was to help them get funding for that project.
gotcha. And again, I don't want to speak on their behalf, I'm just referring back to whatever. It's in just a second, so.
I mean, we're just going through it, right? I mean, we're gonna have to go back through it again and again and again.
If we did 15,000 before in the past. I mean, expansion of opportunities right now when we're in a budget crunch here, when we've got new elected officials and the neat thing is to bring the county services better. I think we need to prioritize maybe a little bit over expansion of some things. Not that it isn't all important, we know it's all important, but 10 grand is 1/5 of a police car right now. And we know there's some things that we need equipment in a lot of other areas too.
What are you saying?
15.
To start,
Fair Board, $100,000 is their request. Last year, their request and what they were awarded was 35,000.
Yeah, so they had a lot of it. I do remember this presentation. Let me roll through theirs real quick. They had quite a few increase. Obviously with the commissioners have already done for the Fair Board, they wanted quite a few more projects that I remember. Let me find theirs. And it was, I think, project derivative. They had projects they wanted to.
Anybody? Commissioner?
they've done a ton, we've done a ton with them. Their board is aggressive and is trying to make the fairgrounds the best they can be. They got 500,000 put in the grandstand right now.
That's-
I think it's been grossly overlooked for many years.
Well, as I mixed it up.
79.
Anything around the second day was helpful.
So, 70.
Yeah, I have them on here. I just don't have a folder for that. You can flip it.
We're just seeing where we're at.
They didn't really provide
So
it.
just leave it there, we can always
Try
revisit it.
75 on that.
If that's all good, well, you want that 75,
Yeah.
is that,
I'd say leave it alone, and let's come back. to it.
Yeah, let's come back to that one. I agree
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Commissioner Bernard. Let's leave it 100.
Okay.
Come back.
I would
So
say,
put 100 in. If we need to come back the second time through, we'll come back.
Ohio State Co-op is asking for $231,543 as safety they asked for and received in the area.
And I think they leverage that. There's a lot of state grant money in that.
we did,
That's the farmers. That's what they use to get a lot of the services there. I heard that.
Yeah, Commissioner, you hit right on it. They have a lot of state, federal, and additional funding to include SNAP ED, which is obviously food assistance, grants, contracts. So yeah,
We're gonna ignore the enforcement right now, and we're gonna move on to the Department of Appropriation. So just so you know, after the mandated amounts and the amounts that you've selected so far for the department, non-general fund departments and entities, have 7 million. Okay. So. Easy ones. Difficult ones.
Let's look at some of the other departments besides ours for now. Then we'll come back to ours individually.
They're asking for 1.3 million, which is
What about the
1.9.
auditor? Skip the auditor.
But you said easy.
She went to the easy one first, she said.
yeah, I think it was getting a little harder.
Just remember the tax map situation. So, treasurer's office, it's one of our smaller departments in the general fund. They are asking for 1.99% of the budget. Historically, they've received about 1.54.
Dollar wise, talk dollars, not just percentage stuff.
If that would be, if you would say what they,
That percentage is skewed by that 2 million too.
1.3 is what they're asking for. They had gotten 1.042 last year.
1.54 of this would give it 1,025,000.
well,
Last year's actual was 1,042. But they actually spent last year, so that would be a decrease.
There's a new treasurer coming in September. Sam will be leaving in September. We know if any of his staff is leaving at that time. Anyone made any retirements or key people or anything, you know?
They're supposed to put it on their budget, so hold on. I don't think they forecasted for any that I can see. No, I don't see any forecasted retirements. Again, they may come up, but I don't see any on their budget.
And the new treasurer will have the same salary as the old treasurer. There's no longevity or anything, right?
they didn't, just like us, we get our
State.
salaries are statutory.
Right.
And they were looking at making some changes and then deduct the salaries that they did. So if there's changes in salaries.
What did they spend last? 1 point?
1,042,000 bucks. So
And
we'll
why don't we
round
make
up
the
to
same?
1,043,000.
They get the same as what they spent last year.
Can we
So,
do that with the pay raises?
no, you
No.
can't. That's why, yes. So,
Yep.
I mean, you can do whatever you want. Hold
Yeah.
on, let me just,
No, but-
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so blunt.
No, it's not.
So you have to remember, this is a contract that is going to be getting a increase in salary, which then drives up your PERS, which then drives up your workers' comp. So I'm looking at their budget and I will say that, and also the health insurance has increased too, which we've accounted for. So I would say that they budgeted accordingly for what their realistic 2025 costs will look.
They're very conservative.
They're very conservative. I mean, I looked at it this weekend, but I also just went.
Let's read that word for example, just.
So 1.3 could just leave.
Are Are you okay with that, Commissioner Malloy? I don't
I
want to.
mean, let's just see where we're at, but if they're saying that they're pretty well budgeted, and with these increases,
And I would leave it at the same dollar figure, not the percentage thing.
Same. So,
Same
the
dollar.
1326.
So, yeah. they-
1326615.
Yeah, yeah, use your, that's right, so they wanted same dollar.
It's going by your percentage.
Yeah, But,
That's what they're.
great,
When I put it in there, I just put it in two digits,
Okay.
0.99, but it's probably
That's
0.9999.
all right. Since Commissioner Bernard wanted to visit the auditor, who the auditor. I explained last week what our variance was, why, what we are taking on, more salary from our office is being under general fund. Some of it is by, that I had a chance to look at the Attorney General opinion. The Attorney General opinion says that tax map should first of all be under the engineer. We're looking at a legal way to do that because my predecessor entered into a contract, a union contract, that probably should never have. And so we're looking at the best way to do that legally with our labor agent. But the other part of that Attorney General opinion is that those salaries need to be paid out of the general. So we need to move them, move the portion of that, the tax map portion from real estate, REA, real estate assessment over to general fund. The other part of our increase in this is that we have salaries for, or wages for, the three employees that were being paid in full or in part out of human resources budget. Two of those are payroll employee or payroll coordinators. One of those, Chrissy, because of the work that she does with BWC. We took, can you go through that?
So one employee was paid completely out of 720 payroll. And then we moved her half into general fund, so half into HR. So now, the one who was half paid out of 720 is now 25% paid out of 720 and then 75% paid out of general fund. And myself, 96, and now I'm 25% paid out of 96 and 75%.
We wanted, because that was one of the concerns that we were kind of taking from HR budget to do that. And it should be out of general, but what I feel like we do a fairly fair resolution on that. The other thing that to be reminded, we add to the general fund about 3.3 million, is that correct? We bring that in, we explained that last week.
We've always done that.
Right, that's
That's
part-
nothing new with budgets.
No, that's always been that way, but I want to point out that, and we also, because of what the nature of our office, we serve every other county office. So we are the paymasters for the entire county. We are the fiscal officer for the entire county. We work with and we train, and that's one of the things that you folks that are here are from our newer public officials will know that we spend, particularly Christie, spends a lot of time training our new public officials and their employees. And that's always been that way. Anytime there's new employees, financial clerks, we have to understand.
That's why we pay some of our salary then.
Well, and that makes sense, but I'm explaining why. But I'm explaining that we provide IT for the entire county. We do, although some departments and some offices have IT. But these are things that we're not like charging for. These are things that are statutory duty. We collect or we sell the dog license. That comes out of the general fund because even though that comes out of the general fund because we're statutorily required to do that, but we don't take like a cut of that. So that's all coming out. Really, when you figure out that what we contribute, you take that out, you're getting a bargain. Or what we contribute monetarily and what we do.
What did you operate on last year? Because that same bargain can carry over last year, the year before, the year before that.
Absolutely, and it was a bigger bargain before, but again, we had to add those costs and go ahead.
Well, tax map, half a tax,
Gotcha.
all of tax map was paid out of a different fund. It's paid out of the real estate fund, it wasn't paid out of.
So what's the new
So you
tax
have
map that
that.
you're gonna have to absorb?
And I didn't know that. Sorry, it's just half of it. And then say 2 full employees that were being charged to Alex that were non-moving.
Plus, we also have, in addition to the cost, like everyone else, we have our hospitalization increase. We have our, ours, we are, the other thing you need to realize too, my bargaining unit does not do the contract next year.
Right.
So we are still, our department share is higher on the hospitalization costs. My employees who are union, not our non-union, but my employees that are union are paying 12% of the 2018 rates. We're still, our department share is
What's your percentage of raise this year from your last contract?
3%.
3%?
That. So we have, everybody gets those raises, everybody, and that's by contract, right? And of course, I do keep most of the time, I'm straight from the employees, but we keep our non-union, we only have currently about 5 non-union as of this year. Sorry, 4 non-union, I am not included. Thank you.
So you're asking for a 3% raise from last year?
Well, that's by
Oh,
that's by
well,
contract.
okay,
is
I'm
what
sorry.
saying.
Then how much did you spend last year compared to what you're?
3.3 million.
A little over 3.3.
So it is,
$900,000.
but a lot of that is, I've given you all the list of things that have increased our ask, right? That, we have the GIS and tax map, or tax map portion, which I think, let's see. Yeah, I don't want to say it out of memory, so we have to look at it. But we've had 3 positions that we've had to take that were being funded by HR and are now being funded by general.
We lost Kasaki's position, or did we pay for that? Or did you pay for it last year?
You took it out of the budget.
Right, exactly.
Right, but who
But-
paid the
but-
salary last year?
We did.
And that was 100-some thousand
No,
there,
it
so
was not.
No,
you didn't make that much?
there was a change once.
What was it? What's the change? So public figures.
To look that up. Okay.
I mean, the
But
2 employees that we're absorbing, roughly it's 180,000 plus whatever it is. Then whatever the tax map is. I mean, then where does that fit in, I guess?
You
We
don't
have
know
real
the exact
numbers.
number. Central. Is that what you want?
I mean, yeah, if they're absorbing, absolutely, they should be paid that, if they operated on that, what is the increase, the real number that it's real more? Yeah, the
Do you have
3%.
something? I do central or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's public
It's up
record.
go ahead.
Can you do a central budget?
But then
Or,
you can also.
employee central.
If you- Go ahead and do that, but go ahead and the other thing is the tax map GIS. That's a lot.
I think that's the bulk.
That So.
But it's all rolled up, so I can't.
Right. Go ahead and do what you want, and see if we can figure it out.
So, Employee Central on soft.
How many employees are in tax map?
7, right? 7. 7. And we're saying, you're not absorbing the whole thing. You're doing, it's GIS in tax map, and we're saying,
And there's a chance of the engineer's office may take the whole thing,
no,
no?
because it's the Attorney General opinion, as I explained this to you guys last week, says it has to be paid from the general fund.
Yeah.
So that the cost of it has to be borne by the general fund.
Did it always be, was it always that way?
I don't know, I just know the Attorney General opinion in 2019.
I guess not to sound stupid, but why was the engineer even brought up then? The engineer's office.
They
Because
used to
that's
have,
the supervisory part of it, and that's what we're working on, because we have 2 unions involved,
Gotcha.
so that's, but. Great. So the other thing that I want to is we had this.
doesn't the code say that's where it's supposed to be?
It's an Attorney General opinion, but that's what the code says, yeah. And it's the other part of that, and I shared that with you last week, so. Yeah.
So they've been in your office for a year,
So as long as I mean, people are remembering.
so do you direct them to do the work?
Yes, we do, because that's what we have to, but unfortunately, like I said,
No,
I hear the
understand, but
CBA.
that leads to my next question. Do we need 7 people?
Oh, yes, we do.
I-
We have trouble keeping up with that, and the only reason we don't have more is the time and energy to train these people would cause us to be further backlog. So
Fantastic.
It was 83,000.
that's the general fund shares.
83,000.
So
Soft. Was 83,000.
275 about,
So,
So
but he's
the-
gone.
that's working up on.
I did have another one and half.
Okay, so
Correct.
275. So 275 for the GIS, that's what I thought. And then we added the other
It was almost 400,000. I think it was 300. I'm wrong. For the 50, 150 at
Right.
the time, I had estimated $345,000. Again, that was my, looking at my own budget, so. Including, obviously, Kerr's workers' comp. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah,
and then, so
so that makes sense.
that's just 620, and that's not without the raises that we have to do for our through our CBA and the increased hospitalization costs, which that is, like I said, we have more of a department share because of,
The lower.
and our non-union people, they were we're at 25, or 25.
They got the same Me Too as everybody else.
No, it doesn't
So-
work with healthcare. They have to pay 12% of 25.
She is correct. So the VOC owns the plan, and that is per Ohio code. So the only people who are allowed to go out and procure their own health insurance outside of the VOC is anybody who has their own board. That is a separate entity, right? So we have CSV has their own board, they have their own insurance, so on and so forth. That's why you see everybody else basically kind of jump on the Board of Commissioners insurance. With that being said, they have to adhere to whatever you set the premiums and percentage of the premiums to be, period. Unless they're under a contract, which is where I kind of got screwed, we've already talked about this. I came on and realized that we had contracts dating back to 2018 that were negotiated at a set rate. We cannot live like that. We've already gone through this. We fixed it. We're moving on. Bigger, brighter days of Trumbull County. So anybody who is not attached to a bargaining unit right now in Martha's, so Martha adhered to the 12% of 2025 rates. Tim, 12% of 2025 rates. Anybody who's non-bargaining, Kendra, thank you. Kendra.
Our new.
Yeah.
Our weights and measures.
Kyle.
Yes.
That,
Martha,
we're trying.
the commissioners would cut your budget, how much can we cut? I'm just saying, I'm asking a question.
Good question.
It's a good question.
What do you-
Unfortunately,
I mean, because we're looking
It's
at,
been so long since I looked at our budget.
Obviously, it's a little bit higher, as everybody does, they put it.
Right, I know.
Too, so, I don't know,
It's $900,000 difference. Could we,
But we've explained a lot of it.
I understand.
And you understand.
we can't work at 3.3, but
right,
we probably don't necessarily need 4.2. And at this point, again, this is not that stone and all.
can you do 3.8?
That's not even, we just explained that we had 600,000 in additional costs, and that doesn't even include the raises and the increased hospital.
so we know we can't do 3.
So commissioners, the 275 is just the increase for the GIS. There's how many employees there? 4?
There's 7 employees,
okay.
and that's half of the cost of this.
That's what, so I counted for 4, I'm sorry.
Right.
3.5, right?
Right.
Okay, and then the 345,000, again, estimate is just giving back what was taken out of
Right.
human resources budget for
For 2 employees.
3. It was 3. It was 1 full-time, well, 1 equivalent of an FTE, 100%, 1 was paid 50, 1 another was paid 50. So that went down to 25, 25, 25, and that's still, that's roughly $345,000. So again, that's $620,000 just in what they're saying they have to absorb in employee costs. That's all. So we're clear on that. Does that make sense?
625 above the 3.35.
Yes,
Okay.
And that
and
doesn't
that doesn't
account
even
for,
include
right?
our 3% raises on everyone else, and everyone is funded out of general fund, all of our employees.
Yes.
And
620.
the increased hospitalization.
620,000.
Our department share is
Higher.
more because I have a CBA that has 28 rates,
Yes.
and I can't change that.
And I wish we could, which I would have to agree with
That
her,
in
that she is
mind.
correct.
At 4 million. That would put you where you need to be, but, I don't know, later on, we would have to appropriate.
Well, that's with every other department. If we see that, we can
We
adjust.
can see where we're at, I mean, maybe put in 4 mil.
That's fine.
Is it, Commissioner, you okay with that?
Yeah, I think you're being honest with that.
Right, I don't have any
We
reason,
have
but
been, we
Yeah,
tried
yeah,
to
I
be
mean,
very,
I
we've
just
tried to
took the
explain as
last
much
year
as we
with what
could.
Alex gave me and it came to 3.97, so
Okay, you're not trying to gouge us.
Nope,
4 mil.
and like I said, we do a lot for the county. It's, I
You
mean,
do.
for the county government itself.
Every department does. So I mean, get that straight. I
We
appreciate that.
We touch.
So does
every-
Alex.
No,
So does the
but
sheriff.
Yes, she
For
does.
the citizens of the
She
Not
county.
verified,
Don't make it
but-
about me,
No, but
thank
we
you.
touch- we touch- The fact is, yes, Alex, absolutely. I'm not second guessing that, but here's the thing.
No, it's not
We
about
touch
Alex.
every part of this government.
Yes. We
The
all,
auditor's office touches every single place. Go ahead.
So if we give $12 more million, cut 250.
None of this is easy to do, I'll
Right.
say that right now. We like to keep it moving, but
but I do
Working
think what they're,
Days are-
we're not working with
they're
it.
being very transparent in what they need to do.
Little
Very good, we have. Romeo, we hear one.
Let's do an easy one now. Shall we? Yeah.
The prosecutor.
Okay, or should we just continue on the hard ones and then be done with them and then move on to all easy? And on a high note.
Comptroller's office asking for a little over $1.1 million. They spent $1,059,000 last year. They're asking for 1.73% of the budget, and they have roughly been in the 1.61.
So
So how much money did it take them last year?
160, basically.
So what you're seeing here is roughly the same increase that you saw in the treasurer's office, and that is solely due in part to just the increases that we're anticipating for CBA contract increases 2025, as well as their health insurance increases. So outside of that, I don't see too much. I mean, let me double check what I looked at this weekend, but
It's close, and $100,000.
yeah, I think it was solely attributed to just that. So I would be very cautious about putting anything there, but that's your choice.
Well, if we went with what they had last year and we added 3%, is that what it is, or 4% up front? Then what would that put us?
Where they're probably at with insurance.
Is it or not?
I don't know, that's not all payroll, so I can't take it times 4%, that's also.
I mean, I guess I
It
would
might
just
be
look
like
and
that 30,
see.
40,000.
Yeah.
It's less than.
Right, it's not much, so we're not,
Yeah.
Maybe
I can look though, I can take what they had to 1.0 times 4%.
I would leave it
put
the
it
Just see what that is.
Yeah, quarter, right? It's an additional $42,000, so 1,059, 567. That's 1,102, so they're not that far off.
That's what I said.
And if you, well.
It's still 53,000. 53,000 is a police car.
Commissioner, health insurance, you didn't factor that.
Health insurance.
It's
Health
right.
insurance.
That increase.
Yeah, the money for the police car, just give some of that to me.
I mean, you're playing with,
Yeah, let's just
Nickels
leave
and
that alone
dimes.
for now. And we can, we know we got 50,000 maybe to play with there.
right,
Like I said, we're gonna have to go over this
You
again.
can go back.
And
The coroner's office, they are asking for $1.275 million. Last year, they spent $1.198 million. It's what, an increase of about 77,280. And again, that's also like increases and health insurance, basically.
I'll leave it the same.
Corner did get a raise in that house bill too, or none of the other elected officials did, Corner did.
Well, that's important, that's part of it.
Good about shop for
Yes.
everyone.
He did, you're right. Right.
Couple easy ones.
do we wanna do the sheriff with those guys here?
Sure.
So they can maybe go back to work?
So here we go, sheriff office, asking for 20.8 million, last year they spent 18.5.
I'll make a
And then-
proposal with this, which may not go real good. If they asked for 18.5, or the 18.5 is what they spent last year, what they asked for?
I don't have what the actual.
What did they spend?
They spent 18.5.
They spent 18.5. If we went with 19.5, which is $1 million less than what they want, but $1 million more than last sheriff did. We know we're gonna do things to take care of them down the road. We know they got major big issues. They're gonna be our problem child per se that we're gonna have to carry along until we get things rectified over a 1, 2, 3 year period with a new administration, maybe better way of doing things. So we know that they may run short. We're knowing that as the budget money comes in at the end, like I said earlier, they're gonna be the first ones to come to us, first ones to take care of us. That's almost 30%, or I'm sorry, almost a third of our budget. With what they're asking, if we start them out with the 19.5, and then we got this additional stuff that we're looking at with the evidence room, with the police cars, things like that we're talking about, that's an addition to what we're talking about here budget wise. Then I think that's fair, because that puts us right where they kind of need to be, but it's not just general fund.
I also like to note too, that this budget, the 20.8 was set by the original, last administration before they went out. So I'm not sure that you've had a chance to go through that line by line and determine the 20.8 or.
Well, I mean, you and I have spent endless hours, and again, thank you for her, because she's been wonderful. But so what I had, when the second weekend, tremendous. You probably never wish you offered me help. Very good request, but anyway, well, second week in December, when the sheriff sent in the budget, he didn't show up. He sent in 22,412,257. I have that budget that he sent in. The thing there. So I don't know, our numbers are a little bit different. She's the expert. I have the budget, we printed it out yesterday when we were together, 2024 actual. I have 19,236 of actual.
Is that just general fund or that other funds too?
That's like,
That has something.
Yeah, we're just looking at
We're just
General
looking
fund
at the
01.
general fund.
Okay, but, okay, so I guess the point that I just want to make is, with that, that breaking even last year, that means we've got officers that just got 2% increase in pay. They got another 1% coming. We got unit 5 that's going to be increased, that's going to get their pay increased. And we don't have enough officers on the road. I mean, we got 3, sometimes 4 guys in midnight running. We need to add, 26 officers is what we need. If we add 15, you're talking about $1.5 million there. If we need to add 15 COs badly. We're talking about another approximately $1 million there. I know we can't get there, and I know where it is. I'm just throwing this out there. So no, we're looking at, and I know we're not going to get there, but we're looking at $24 million if we were running at full staff. We've inherited a building that's never been updated, taken care of. The cars are not updated, taken care of. We just got a lot of things that can go wrong. A lot of cars that need new cars. Even if you guys give us 10 cars, which you can't, we got cars that cost a fortune repairing.
I want to interject here because
Sure.
we gotta be careful. Operating budget, what we're talking about today is
Right.
different from capital expenditures, the cars, and I know you understand that. from a business
Absolutely.
perspective.
Repairs on the cars,
Right.
that type of thing, repairs.
Right.
These cars, 200,000 miles
Right.
on them. It's expensive tires and everything.
Right.
And I know we're not gonna get there. I just want to, Chris, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that part of this actual budget from last year does include probably a little half $500,000 in the body cams and the radios that were transferred from sales tax. They weren't operational, and we transferred the money from initially. The money was transferred from sales tax to general fund to pay for it out of the general fund, out of their budget. So this isn't, the 18.5 from last year wasn't all operational.
Okay.
It was some capital projects too.
That's fine, but right now, without any officers, we're running approximately close to 16 million. 90% of our budget is officers. We're putting out, we have 22 officers in schools, 22 or 12 officers in other buildings that the revenue that we create from that comes back here, and I understand that comes back here, but that's, money that we're not reimbursed for. That's out. But we're roughly, without adding any officers on, we're close to $16 million.
And Alex can address this better too, but one of the things that hopefully will improve the revenue, which will help, is that, when you're not collecting, when we're not collecting on those, on every penny, that's more money that it costs the general.
Right, I realize it costs, but we have 4 million in
We're not
contracts, right?
recouping every
And we're not, and they haven't recouped everything. It was 3 million something
Right.
that they did recoup last year. But that's coming back to the general fund. It's not coming back to us for use. I just don't want to get in a position where we're looking for adding $3 million because we can't even meet payroll, and the sheriff and I look like we're over budget, you know what I'm saying? I still want to get in that situation because without us adding, the bottom line is, without us adding anybody, we're 15.6. We've got to add, we don't have enough people.
And Mark, that's just your resources. And Mark, that's just, so I had looked at that as well and roughly came up with roughly 16 million, don't,
Same thing, right?
give or take. And that was just your operating employee costs. That was not anything else. Is that the same number that you're coming up with?
Yes, that's operating employee.
That's bottom line.
And that's without adding any, we can't continue with this, but we're gonna start having full officers. Schools or wherever. We don't want to do that.
And you also, I mean, I did, but I want to make sure we did the same thing. You factored for, we have no way of really knowing what unit 5 is going to be yet, unfortunately, which is a disadvantage that we're dealing with. But you did factor in all of the unit 1, everybody else with the increases that they're at.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying, where we're coming up is a much higher number factor, that, you don't know where unit five's gonna be.
Right.
That's definitely, I mean, this 15.6, that's not, it's probably 16, heading close to 17 because the raises, you got 2% on the deputy side, right? Then you got another 1% coming on top of that raise.
Right, I mean, I had come up with over, a little bit over 16, that's what I was saying, but again, that's just.
Right, so you're.
I'm not the
probably real
finance
close.
person here.
So the dilemma we have is,
You're probably real
the
close.
last year put in a budget of 20 million. We know we need to get 14 million. You're a professional financial advisor. Anything you ask for over that adds to that 14 million we gotta deduct. Where would you take it from? If the sheriff's department gets more than what's asked there, where do we take it from?
I don't know, I understand your situation, obviously, I don't. know.
Because it's coming from one of those departments.
I know, and I don't want to take away from another department, I'm just, all the point I'm trying to make is 20 million, we're running at bare minimum without bringing people on. So if we got to run at that, and we have cars going down and need fixing that, we've got to pull officers. I mean, there's no other, I mean, I understand the situation you're in, and I understand budgets and government. It's just, there's not like a whole, we're gonna run a tight ship, obviously, but there's not a whole lot of room. It's not like we can take, okay, we can save 5 million here on this project. On the 90% of it is officers on the street. So there's not like you can cut, 3,000 here, 1,000 here, whatever, but there's not a lot of places I can go in the budget and say, I'm gonna save $1 million. You gotta realize by the time you take an officer and you add a car, and the expenses of the car, and I'm talking a top 8 officer, you're 106, 110,000 depending on his pay.
And I hate to say this, but have we had any townships reach out to us and say they need more police protection? I haven't got that call one time since I've been here. I know we want more cops out there, we want more deputies out
Well, I
there.
think if you go up north, they'll tell you they need
Look
more.
at 3, yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, they haven't
Well, I've
come to
talked
me,
to
or come to one meeting
I
yet,
haven't gotten
said
the calls, but I've talked to trustees and they definitely need more.
they appreciate what they have, but I haven't had, no one's come to
Well, you
commissioners
go up in
meetings.
the
Well,
west-
here's
up in
the
Westville,
problem.
in those areas, and they're getting a lot of break-ins up there.
Here's the problem. It's not whether they're calling you need it. When you have 2 or 3 officers out, chief's here too, he can try to get on this. But I know how they do it. They're splitting out across the county, right? Plus we've got to cover Newton Falls. Right? So you got them split out like this. This officer over here gets in trouble, gets shot at. You got officers a half hour away trying to get to that person or an emergency. I mean, somebody's dead in 6 seconds. Shoot. So you have no one helping. The point is, I mean, can we still operate the way we are? Yeah, but I mean, at the 20 million, we're operating at bare bones without bringing. You're talking correction officers, we don't have near enough correction officers. So it's up to you guys. I mean, we'll have to work within whatever you give us. But what I'm saying is I don't want to look like, we add officers and you tell us, go ahead and add officers in, and I'm coming back and asking $2-3 million. It's going to look like Sheriff and I are over budget, didn't do a good job. And we have no Alex, great guys. What are the numbers you guys are?
I mean, the only thing that I can even remotely talk to is again, employee expenses, right? Again, salaries, PERS, workers' comp, health insurance, those things, of course, which is the meat and potatoes of
And I know
your
the
budget.
auditors work hard on this, and when I was at Christie, like, again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate her. She goes off the chart, she probably dies. But I mean, I know they're looking at the numbers, what I'm looking at is our officers, do we have enough to cover that cost? So that's just where we're at. I want you guys to decide where we're going. I just don't want to come back and ask for $3 million.
That was a transfer from sales tax to cover the body cams, the radios and the cars.
So 18 is what they were really operating.
Can we-
Operating versus.
Well, no, for the whole budget.
We've been
18.5 is everything,
and then we do,
stuff, and we have some
capital
capital.
from
things that are
sales
about
tax
like-
when we have
So
this
it's
extra money and as we.
it's not the actual.
So we try to spend.
So you are seeing that 2.5 is what, like, 45. months. actually.
18.
No, last year 18.5 was the total and 500,000 of that was at
The
least.
total
Yeah, sorry,
spend
and at least 500,000
was capital.
radios. Or,
Yeah.
big
So-
cameras and the
So we're
car.
looking at 18 for the operating.
Okay.
So, Danny, Commissioner Boyd, is at 19.5, can we just plug in 20 million and see where we're at there? And then take it from there, see, I mean, it's 500 grand, but I mean,
Amazing zeros there when you know how to comma.
see where we're gonna be.
Yeah, where does that put us percentage wise?
It's about 30%.
30% of the whole budget for Old County.
General. Of it.
So, wanna look at it easy.
Excuse me, so I just have a question. So if the 4 million comes back in, how's that? Still don't have a clear understanding. It's like credited to us.
No, that's part of what we have. We,
Just like
you wouldn't be getting 20 million if we didn't get that.
So that, okay,
It's
yeah.
part of the 66.5 million up here.
Okay, that was my
It's
question.
the full general fund estimated resource.
But getting those contracts in line with recouping the actual costs, long term, it's not right now, that gives us more money in the general fund
Right.
where we have more to work with. But just like I bring in 3.3 million, I don't get to say that's, I just say, but I remind the commissioners of that, but it's not my money.
Chief and I are, working on it. He's working on going through the contracts.
I mean, I don't
Getting
think
them
that you're
up
gonna
to
find,
where they need to be.
let me be clear, you're not gonna find millions by any means here. Because we did address some of it, most of them. I don't think, if we're just talking the 12 SRO contracts, I don't think that we're gonna find millions. But
But it'll help.
it's what Lauren was saying, every little bit, helps.
First brush of the SRO contracts, taking in about 56% its cost.
Right.
The rest of that's coming out.
I think some of them were caught and fixed though, so just.
Yeah, I was just saying, that can't be right, because she caught that, Alex redid it
But
herself.
but I wasn't able, we could go back, remember, so
Alright.
anybody that was already under a contract. It was what it was.
Well,
Right, and I
Dan, so
believe
from
that
the
you said
prosecutor's
you
office.
weren't even.
We can talk about that too, a little bit more in depth if you want from the legal end, but essentially, it just, as long as it covers the actual cost of the
Yeah.
deputy, it's really not necessarily a profit-making entity
No.
or a situation.
But it should at least
Sheriff's
cover.
office, But it should be neutral essentially.
Right,
And that's
The other
not.
thing too that I would say, is that I believe when you talk about like 56%, that may seem low. The other thing to keep in mind though is that some of those deputies work, in fact, I think many of them work in the season where school is not in session. So those costs aren't recouped because that's not actually one of the.
The 3 months.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so
So
we did it on
the
a 9.
percentages get a little weird because of that, but we can talk more in depth about it if you want to on that end.
Well, one other thing on that is when, I think these deputies were figured, I'm not sure, we're going in at a lower number. Really, you should take the highest, pay of what a deputy is. If
Yes,
all
we-
the benefits.
We addressed that,
Right, right.
yes, we did,
Right. I
yes.
know you guys were working on that. But the situation where we're talking about officers, if we have 2 officers in the school, right? One guy gets sick, you gotta replace an officer, now you're paying time and a half for that school that we're not recouping. So, and that happens a lot because we don't have enough. So that's just.
And then outside of the SRO contracts, one thing that I just want to be very transparent on that I did not touch was your police services contract. So with Newton Falls, with Mecca, with, when you contract with them, I did not even open up that can of worms of were you fully recouping your employee costs there? So I'm not even sure about that. You guys would have to definitely look into that further. But I'd be kind of willing to bet right now, and I'm not really a betting person, but if we weren't necessarily recouping full costs on the SROs, I tend to believe maybe there was a way we might not have been fully, recouping everything on the police services as well. Something for you to look at. I like to come with at least some type of look at this, so we maybe get
I
some back.
appreciate it, yeah. Any suggestions?
And then I have some more questions. Are you sure? In general, I know that because HR insures all of, your vehicles and whatnot. There's some larger vehicles, again, I'm not police, you do with this what you may, but there's, some tanks and some big things that we don't utilize very often. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm not sure what we're using them for, but is there a way to liquidate some of those assets and potentially put money back into your coffers?
They're not used, no, they cannot go back into the coffer. What happens is, those are government vehicles that have been appropriated to us, so it has to go back to the, so, no, we cannot make money on those things. I asked.
Did we buy them with did we buy them with our funds though?
No, they were
Okay.
given to us,
Okay.
like military vehicles and that. You're talking about that
Well, I'm talking about the boats, the tanks, all of it, really.
no, that you
Okay.
can't, like, cause I wanted to sell the boat that didn't work.
I know,
The
Yeah,
Vietnam
well,
boat,
that one didn't work anyway, so
Yeah, I know.
nobody wanted to buy that.
but I could scrap it or something, but
Yeah.
you just, I found out you just can't sell these. It's gotta go back to the government.
But even if it went back, wouldn't that save insurance costs?
I'm just trying to think outside of the box anywhere. we
No,
can.
it's great, that's great.
I know that sounds silly, but I just look at
I
what I
thought
know.
Even if we wouldn't make money on it, but if it would.
I mean,
go
it's
back,
inventory that we're sitting on.
If it's, but if it isn't there, aren't there?
We're
insurance
insuring it,
costs
sure, yeah,
that
we
go
are,
with
but
it? I mean, it wouldn't be as great of a help,
Yeah.
but if you're not using something.
maybe it's something to
having
look at.
Yeah, we can get rid of it for
Oh,
insurance.
I'm not, listen, I'm not saying,
Well, I
you
mean,
guys need to look at it. It is your operations, it's the sheriff's decision. By no means is this me telling you what to do. I can't do that anyways, but I'm just saying,
that's
maybe.
a good
we
point. I
look
looked
at it.
into it. I thought we could make, we could make some money that way, so.
Commissioner, did we ever figure out with all those vehicles sitting on Panther, if we can liquidate those things and put the money in the vehicles?
Bill Hart was supposed to look at it. And he just came back, so I'm not even sure he's aware of it yet, so.
I mean, we had a whole yard there, something, we gotta be able to get some cash
Gotta
on that.
Clean it up, that's right.
Well, here's another thing, money making thing. Is if we had a yard, we had it open, we tow a vehicle, we could have it towed there, we could charge storage fees. And I don't know if that might come to us or come to the county, and that could create a lot of extra money.
Yeah.
Just doing that.
Well, if we clean up that yard, we can
Storage.
tell
Put impounding the cars there.
So you fence
That's
it.
a good moneymaker. We just need a place with a fence, and if that was cleaned up like Commissioner Bernard said, we'd have room to,
Then you need
right,
somebody,
right, correct?
you need somebody to allow them to take their car up too, like.
Well, sure, but we got people
Front office.
working there, so we
Right.
work out a deal with a towing company, right? They tow it for us,
Right.
we charge $50 a day or whatever. I mean, that we could create a lot
Yeah,
of
'cause
money.
the tow
Howard
companies are
Howard
getting
Township
it
has one right there on North
That's part of the tow
North
companies
Road.
are getting it now.
Your tow companies
They
are
got
getting
an
it now. Why
impact, so
aren't
they're
we getting,
making money on it. I know, we looked at,
we can make money.
I would agree with that.
Well, Panther is fenced in,
That's only got 4-foot fence.
but it's small, I know.
Well, at least
I
we
know.
can't drive
Legality
the
with
car.
that
We just want to make
prosecutor.
sure they can't drive the car.
I know, you're right.
See any legality issues with that?
Bill Danso, prosecutor's office. All I will say is I know there's a section of the revised code that deals with government impound lots. We just have to look out. I know a number of our townships here in the county have it. I'm just assuming that it could be a county also that runs one. We would just have to help take a look at that if that's something the commissioners were interested in.
Like I said, Howland, they have one, I go by there 3 or 4 times a
I know
day.
Brooksville
Right, but
got
there's gotta be
one.
liability on our end too. If
Pretty
we're
good money.
holding someone's vehicle and it gets damaged while it's there, I'm sure that's a course issue.
Same liability the townships have, but, let's just look at it. But first step is we gotta clean that
Does
yard.
the benefit outweigh the cost? And it's, we gotta look at.
Something to think about down the road.
I don't think we're gonna get rich at it. but
No.
It bring a
Might
good
be
amount of
for
money.
lights. Anything at this point.
Municipal courts, we'll make something easy.
Thank you, everybody, for all the help.
So where are we at with them? 20 million?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what we put.
This is gonna be a work in progress.
I know.
With this new
I
thing,
understand.
we'll partner up with you any way we can. We just have to, as we get more money in, then you get more requests. I appreciate the sheriff's got his sights set high. We like that. It's just we don't have pockets that deep yet.
I appreciate all your help.
The only thing that's
You gotta
paid for
do
through our
this
system
too,
is
so.
payroll
County
and so last year, $611. $12,000, right? Serious, On that, was what was the actual due to, public defender costs going up. So just an FYI, I think for less than what they spent last year, but I think that's because no one updated the budget. None of their employees have access to Munis, and I don't know who, does their budgeting on here. What is through our financial statements, their payroll, which, is taken care of through our payroll department, and then the public defenders, which is paid through our office too. So, I can't estimate that, public defenders. Just like on that. So I don't know. Stick with what's in the budget and then we do public defenders, but we also have public defender costs.
If they're putting in less than what it was before, let's leave it at less, let's leave it at their number, it's less.
And then we'll deal with public defenders, because also public defenders is also your guys' office too, so. The main contract.
With elections, let's tackle that.
So Board of Elections, they're asking for $2,071,000. Last year, it was they spent $2,165,000. But it was a presidential election year and they had a lot of they came to you multiple times for increases in postage and other things due to that. Plus, they also got $280,000, I think, for the equal pads. So that came, it wasn't part of operating, it came from sales tax and went to federal.
We know where they were at 23, non-election.
They were at 1.6.
1.6, and that's more of a realistic number than I would think, because there's not much going on this year. Plus, the thing that sticks out with me, when they came and gave the presentation, they want to give their director and deputy director each an $18,000 raise, which would put them at 93,000. Their highest paid employee below them would be at 49. So they want to have a $44,000 difference between the two top people and their next employee. To me, that is disparity, like CEO with the CEO of Microsoft versus an employee. How do you do that when they're doing almost the same amount of work? Now, I know they justified and said, well, when they were at 75, they were getting overtime, and this is what they ended up making in a busy year. It was what they ended up making in a presidential or governor type of year. And when you're a director, you don't get overtime. That's part of the job of being a director, being a department head. They said they did comps with other counties. I asked for the comps. I got the comps from there. There are numbers where they want to put them. It's still higher than what the comps were for the other areas. It
What
was.
areas, by chance,
Medina, Mahoning, they had some of the other counties around us, and it varied
comparable
from
sizes?
mid-80s to 92. But they would still be at 93. They would still be at the high end of that. And to me, I just can't see how any responsible, us being responsible commissioners, how can you look at 20 some employees where they're all making under 50,000, say your bosses make $40,000 more than you, but they do the same amount of work as you side by side with you all day long. So to me, that was just a disparity to come in and say, we want 36,000 of our budget, we're gonna put towards raises for the top two people. I could stomach 75 to 83 or something like we've done in other areas, looking at that, but a raise of that caliber is, and to make the disparity between some employees been there many, many, many years and don't make over 49,000. That's what kind of sticks in my craw a little bit with this.
You want to keep them at
I don't want them to have enough money to pay raises, because they can do what they want. Their board's gonna adjust the money. I don't want them to cut an employee so that they can still get a raise and make their top people. They could do what they want as their own board, but they're using our general funds to do it. But their board of elections makes the decisions there.
I said 280,000 for the equal pass that we sent from sales tax, but it was 356,000.
356.
Oh, that was the total, I will say. So some of that might have been their a grant.
So
I think
even,
there was
even in
there was a small,
Part of grant.
yeah.
so even in the presidential year, they were only at 1.8 or so.
there was a
Without
small
that.
percentage that was matched, so if we paid a certain
I
percentage,
know.
I remember the voter system equipment. 356, 620. Is,
I said, I know we can't do anything about it, but I think we need to ask their board, or we need to appeal to their board to reconsider
228.
the size of those
okay, so the
raises.
total was 356, so that
Yeah,
must
so
have been,
that's-
yeah.
So it was 228, I was right. That was myself.
You know, you know.
So 228 came from Southside, so
Okay.
sorry. The rest was a grant.
Well, here's the other thing, and when we had the board, the hearing. No one from the board came in, it was director and the assistant director came, presented it to us. So, to my knowledge, I've never talked to any board members, have you?
I did. I called Mr. Alberini and I talked to Mr. Christopher. They both called me. I reached out to Mark as president of the board. And I said, hey, these raises are astronomical. What are you thinking here? And they looked at the amount of overtime they put in. They looked at the amount of comp time, which they would get now. They would still get comp time now, which is still compensation. And so if they're gonna pay them 93,000 zero comp time, I could see that, they do what they gotta do for the position as a department head, but they're still gonna get comp time. So they're gonna utilize, maximum number of hours or whatever it is. So they're not getting paid per se, but a director and a deputy director both making 93, which is more than a lot of our department heads. In a non-election year, every other year. They still get valuable work that needs done. They still have work that absolutely has to be done. Just the disparity of what the top two people are making and then the next employee down is what really glares out at me is if they're gonna do anything in that department, they need to give raises to all the bottom people for the hard work that they do.
Well,
And they're non-union there, I believe, right?
yeah, correct.
They're all non-union.
Um,
So for them, you got a bunch of $30,000 to $42,000 hour or $42,000 a year people that literally in the same building doing almost the same job as the top two people. Maybe more work.
And again, we're just speaking in facts, not what you just had said is, right, that you'd rather see their people get a raise. When I'm looking at what they propose, they proposed a very small raise for their for the employees. And yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure you understand they did propose a small percentage increase.
So maybe the director needs to get the same percentage as the employees get. But like I said, we can't mandate that. All we can do is give them so much money and then they work within that budget. But I don't want to give an overabundance, so it's real easy for them to just give these raises out that they're gonna write checks, we have to cash.
In 2024, in just salaries alone, they expended, well, they say 706,000. They're saying for 2025 with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 employees and 2 new hires that are not on yet, they would need 757,000. So that's roughly an increase of 51,000.
They were 1.6 and 23. And with any kind of, I don't know what you would call it, inflation cost of living. You want to stick with the 1.6, you want to.
They got a new building that's
1.75.
more fuel, more efficient with everything. They got a new roof. There's no more leaking, there's no more drafts. We've spent a lot of money there on upgrades of equipment. Over the last year, again, I don't know, they got a new, more efficient thing for public service. If anything, like I said, my heart right now is thinking about the lower end employees. And if I'm sitting there an employee and they're giving me a 2, 3 or 3% raise, whatever it is, on top of my $40,000 a year, another $1,000 a year, whatever. But then I look at my boss is getting $18,000 raise in 1 year. That's massive.
You know what's gonna happen now, the commissioners are gonna come through with big raise requests for all the employees now. Especially if they're listening to you now.
Well, yeah, or they can do what's right and then lower their raise and then put it towards the employees.
That won't happen. You watch the rate increases will come in now.
No, for the hard work they do, $40,000 a year, a lot of them. Like I said, I just, they're gonna watch someone make more than double what they make to be the boss and probably do a little bit less work.
Roughly,
That's all.
it's, looks like it's roughly anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 more increase for the employees.
Their payroll is 800,000. Is that with benefits and everything?
So again, and Commissioner, I'm just going by what they gave, so these are not my numbers.
No, that's
what they
okay. I'm
presented.
just trying to round numbers.
But their salaries alone, like I said, they're proposing for 2025, 757 plus 5,000 in longevity, 23,000 in vacation buyouts, which takes them to 785 total. Then you have to add the PERS on top, so that's another 110,000 and 11,000 for Medicare. So they are saying,
What about the poll?
so
Where's that come from? Their budget or our budget?
yeah, that comes from their budget. Also, they pay the board members from their budget, 16,000 annually. So it looks like that's a stipend, it must be a one-time
The-
payment.
the state-
16,000, I believe it's statutory.
Statutory, okay,
They have meetings and expense,
perfect.
so.
Plus
So
they get
that's-
health coverage too, right?
They get,
To go to one meeting a month.
they get hers, pick up and they get health coverage, yes. And that's accounted for in here. And then they have the warehouse and election assistance baked in, to your point, $20 an hour. And then they have, yeah, so it looks like they've accounted for everything in here. As much as I know.
If they're at $1 million with all their, can they operate on 750 after wages?
It looks-
PRS 1.75.
Election workers in 2024, it looks like it was $810,000 roughly. They're proposing 864,000 election workers for.
How much, what's,
So I'm looking at,
what is? So what was the, what's
2 million.
last year versus this year with
So-
election?
last year under election B, which again, I'm not really sure what the B stands for, so hopefully election for, it says election B, election workers. Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the number. Election B, election workers, 2025, they're asking for 258,885, so 258,000. And in 2024, their projected actuals were 167. They had asked for 176. So that they increased that quite a bit, but I have
But is that for both, that's what I'm asking you, that, you know, if it's for both the primary and the general, that's what because
I think they
not
said
every
that, but
single, not every single in 2025.
there was,
There won't be primary
Right.
in every single precinct.
I think that, does anybody remember back to what they said in the budget hearing? I think they said it's for both, but I don't want to speak on their behalf.
Danny?
We're not making a lot of friends here today, but
Well, it's,
we gotta do what's right.
First round.
yeah,
We know that this year is gonna be a lot less work than it would be in a presidential year. When they had to mail out absentee ballots, they had to deal with absentees and early voting. Tons of people. People don't come in by the herds for early voting for a trustees race, for a city council race. You know, plus there's some townships, some municipalities don't have any, like Martha said, any type of primary to do. No, I'm not saying that their work is diminished. They still have work to do. But they have a staff of 12, 14 employees, or whatever you had there. They're doing it with them. So they get one busy year, one light year, one busy year, one light year. And then the busy year, they earn a whole bunch of comp time that they can burn up and use in the light year.
what do you think? That was it.
I don't know, someone else think for me for a minute here.
Well, I was only looking at, we were thinking 1.6 and 2.3. Alex says they're at about $1 million in payroll, and extra whatever. If you did 1.75, that gives them $750,000 to work with over there.
If they,
It's a big cut, but they're asking for.
right, next year they'll come back and ask for more because it is an election year again, and the Senate race and governor's race. So they're gonna ask for more next year, of course, as they should.
Actually, it's 320 grand from what they want.
You know, if they didn't give raises, if it's the same, all things being equal, I would look at what they spent or what they had for 2023. And I would say give them the same amount there,
0.6.
1.6. And if they haven't cut employees to anything, that's gonna make it a little harder to give the raises that high to the top bosses.
The only thing, again, just to keep in mind with 1.6 is they are absorbing a health increase. They are I mean, there's still other things outside of just their salary that you have to look at. So if you give them 1.6 and you know that the health insurance has gone up, that's not gonna be enough to cover that. So just,
1.7.
Like I said, without them retracting the raises they said they want to give, I don't see anything else we can do.
See where we're at. I don't know, Commissioner, what do you?
You give them an extra $175,000, they're gonna turn around and give 2 raises out for 36 of that.
But they could do it anyway.
Yeah, they'd have to cut somebody, they'd have to,
Well,
really cut
I
somebody.
mean, they can run, I mean, they can give it and then just run out at the end.
they come to you and say they need it,
Yep.
you know?
We give the treasurer the same amount of money, we're given, we could even cut Martha, who's probably the most fiscally responsible one here.
And you
Martha,
commissioners, if you wanna go talk to them.
Which we did.
That's,
Yeah, right.
That's why we're here.
First round, I mean, and this is just the first round, I mean, you're not gonna get, you're probably gonna be still a little over at the end of the day, we're gonna have to figure out. more.
And again,
And
commissioners,
it's
you can go
okay.
talk to them about it, you know, once this is at least a first kind of.
I'd say let's give them 1.6 now, if they
Right.
wanna come and talk at the next meeting. Or one of the board members and justify the jump that they said, let a board member justify.
Got it.
Okay, where do you wanna go next?
Everybody has to realize we have to cut.
That's right, and it's painful, it sucks.
I mean, we have to cut.
Planning commission, they're like 235 last year.
We skip, oh, we're skipping.
We're skipping around, so.
Oh,
you
you
wanna
bring
start
that
going
up.
back? Good.
Planning commission's fine.
Planning commission, last year they were at, actual expenses of, a little less than $900,000, this year they're asking for more.
235,000 last year.
Think back to, I do know. I asked for, I believe, I don't want to tell the wrong things, I'm gonna go to my notes or my, what they proposed. I want to say they used that word. All right, again, commissioners, just review what they proposed to you in their budget. And I'm just gonna read it as this says, and you do it as you may. They proposed a base hourly rate of additional increase of 4%. Plus stipends of 2.5%. If applicable. So I'm not really sure what that means, but 4% would be the amount that is part of the Me Too. Anything above and beyond that, I can't answer. Okay, they have Julie, Danette, Nick, Kimberly, Emily, Andrew, Zach, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. And then they have an intern they've accounted for.
An extra 2%,
They want the 4% plus the 2.5 stipends.
4 or 5. Correct, Jack?
We'll throw something out
I mean,
there.
how can we give them that when we can't put road deputies on? Come on.
These hourly rate plus 4% for Nick plus stipend plus 2.5% from 2021 plus 2. Yeah, 2.5% additional looks like for both Nick and Julie.
And one thing that solves all this, and I know you've said it before, Commissioner Hernandez. If there was a way, and I'm not saying I want it, I'm just throwing it out there. We are the lowest sales tax rate of anyone in Northeast Ohio.
You see how
Listen, hear me out though.
mine.
Here we are. If we did just raise just the sales tax a 0.25%, would bring in $7 million. That would give the sheriff everything he wants. If half of that went to the sheriff or more, and 911, and build our 911 center if we earmarked it just for safety services, that percentage.
Well,
4%, what should you?
Did you say
7 million,
Or
was
is
it?
it 8?
8 million.
And we're estimating, conservatively estimating 8 million.
We'd still be way less than other counties around us. Not that I don't want to raise it, it's sales tax.
Nobody wants to do that, but these
But
are
if you
things,
earmarked it for police
these are things that
or
have
safety,
been kicked, the can's been kicked down the road for years and they've said, oh, it's a great thing. We've never raised your sales tax, but guess what? You've lost services. You've lost the dog pound, you lost coroner's office, you lost 911 center. Mahoney County's at 7.5. We're still at 6 or 3.
There's justice, yeah.
They're just a sales tax. There's not, there's the county sales tax is 1.75.
I don't want to get into a sales tax issue, but this is
Right.
something that, I mean, later on in time, maybe we don't want to cost we don't want to cost our residents any further property taxes with levies, with any kind of transportation levies, with any kind of special sheriff's levies, any additional stuff. But there's only one other way to get it. You got to get it from somewhere. And the only reason why I mentioned that was because looking down the road, what we're dealing with here today, yeah, like Commissioner Lloyd said, Commissioner Bernard and I both agree. This is hard to do.
boiler goes down in the jail, and that's another right there. I'm thinking that's another 300,000 probably right there on a boiler in the jail.
Right,
Sheriff wants new vehicles,
yeah.
and what he's asking for is almost $1 million.
Dog
If we had money that was earmarked just for the sheriff's department and 911.
Right now, we are benefiting from the higher interest rates and we received more in interest than we have. But like, I think last year it was about $5 million. 6 million, 2 years ago it was 1.
Right.
So depending on how those interest rates are set, we may not be guaranteed. We are estimating conservative this year at 4.5, or the treasurer's office is estimating. But we don't. But
You
that's,
never know.
that is a very big fluctuation for us.
Who's gonna pay it? If they can afford to pay it, they will, but
So we
Maybe
don't
they
know,
can
that's a
afford
big
it.
variable for us that we can't guarantee every year.
Mr. Chairman, here's where I'm at. I think we have to show the people that we're accountable. Okay, we're doing everything we can
I
to cut,
agree.
all right? And we haven't done that yet,
Right.
okay? And, you're used to seeing waste in government, okay? We gotta cut that waste out before I'm gonna go to the residents and ask them for more money. And it can be painful, I agree. And these are things that should have been done
I
in
don't
the past.
disagree.
And in 20 days, Mr. Hernandez and I walked in, and every time we look around, somebody's asking us for more money.
Oh, trust me, it's been that way for 2 years.
Well, you know what? But the difference is, Commissioner, you guys had the money. You had that 38 million. We don't have that.
I didn't, I had 10 million. when I got
Well, whatever, that board did, okay? And you know what? And they sat here and said, oh, we haven't raised this, we haven't raised that. So then Commissioner Hernandez to come in and they want us to raise everything. They're gonna sit back and say, see, we told you so.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We have to say who's responsible for us being at this point that we're at. And it's not this board, it's the past two boards. Okay, and I'm not gonna take a hit for them, right? I'm gonna do whatever I can to cut the budget and show the people that we're responsible. But we're far from that point right now.
No, I don't disagree with that. I just think, we're getting off track, but,
It's all about money. I mean.
we definitely got to, it has to come out at some point in time because you can't squeeze blood out of the rock. I mean, there's nothing left, So
Right now,
we're
we're
digging it dirt.
Right now, we're estimating 66.5 million that we have available from the general fund for this year, so that's what we have to work with.
Right.
And gentlemen, just so we know that all this does involve money and it's important what we're at.
Yes.
405
I know.
and we need to get some. more
Planning
decisions.
Commission.
Yes.
1.135.
You gotta take,
They're only like,
you gotta take that 2.5% off. You have to take that off. You get them.
So where's that put us in?
110. Took out 28,000.
That's all? That's the reason.
yeah, they're.
Say 35,000%.
It was roughly like 28, 30, I guess, 32.
To 2.5.
Oh, that's.
So I left the 4%, but I took off the additional 2.5 they were. Because the 4% is.
What?
That's what- all the- 436.
So the next one is all general fund departments, and that's utilities and things like that, that share pays, paid benefits. that retired health.
Yeah, we'll adjust that then.
Last year we spent 436 and
I noticed, yeah,
yeah, I need to be adjusted and we need to do that later.
I did have that mark.
I know that utilities went up. Like
They did, exponentially.
Warm water and
Yeah.
garbage and all that stuff that did go up, so, I'll just put this for right now, so placeholder, I'll talk to Sherry about that.
What about the prosecutor, 40-foot pages?
Prosecutor, you're asking for a little over 4.4 million, last year they spent 3.4 million.
You guys would like, I can explain probably a large majority of that. One of the things to keep in mind is that for the last 2 years, we've had 2 employees paid by grant from the Office of Criminal Justice Services, I believe it is. So that was $250,000 a year that was covered by a no match, just regular grant.
I'm sorry, 250, total of 250
No, it was at $250 per year for the past 2 years, yeah.
for 2 people.
Correct, 2 that covered 2 employees, an attorney and an investigator. So that's one thing right there. The other thing too, that I think, that I want this board to be aware of is that we're, in our office, sort of falling to the victim of, I think we've been too conservative over the years, let's put it that way. We have a DTAC fund that we accumulate funds for the late payment of real estate taxes. That is supposed to fund our division that deals with tax foreclosures, and it can be used in that way. We have used that fund to the point where it's essentially exhausted. And we've done that so we didn't have to come to the commissioners to ask the commissioners to fund that end of our civil division. We have had, Children's Services pays for probably 3 to 4 employees in our office through a program we've had for them for many years. We've got, when we used to have the commissioner's sanitary engineer fund paid for an assistant prosecutor dedicated to the sanitary engineer's office. That was disbanded and we've taken that on internally. So there's a lot of things that we haven't budgeted for over the years that we haven't asked for. We've been trying to do a lot of this internally in our own budget without having to come to you guys. Unfortunately, we've hit the point we just can't do that anymore. Again, our DTAC fund is gone. The grant has expired for those 2 employees. And we're just at a point now where we believe this is a very realistic, non-extravagant budget. We haven't asked for, the only thing that we've built in is the standard 4% expected increase for employees. We haven't built in anything else to that. We haven't built in any new employees. The only thing we've asked in this budget is we have a 20-hour part-time employee we'd like to increase to 30 hours in our civil division to help out with some of that stuff. But, we haven't really, we haven't included a lot else here. We haven't asked for any capital budget this year. We're not asking for any, again, no more raises for employees other than the standard, or we're not asking for any new employees. We just want to try to maintain the status quo. We think this is what is necessary to do.
Is the money earmarked still for that meeting room that you had down there? You
It
asked
is
us for
still
last year
earmarked for
budget?
that, yes. Yes. And that was one where if I remember correctly, the commissioners were contributing,
40,000.
I think it was but we were contributing, I think out of our law enforcement account, I think we were contributing 20,000 of that. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I know that the ask to the commissioners wasn't even for the full amount of that. But again, that's kind of the explanation of at least the high points of our budget there.
Mr. Hazel, my ears went up when you said that. Now, are you providing service for the sanitation engineer as an attorney?
Yes.
They already have an attorney?
Yes.
Somebody explain that to me.
Well, that was I don't know exactly why that developed or how that developed, to be honest. Our office has always been the statutory legal counsel for sanitary engineers, a department of the county. There have been departments over the years, and it's not just sanitary, really, in their defense. There have been departments over the year that have chosen to hire a person who happens to be a lawyer, but as an employee in their office to try to just kind of act more as an administrator than as legal counsel. And that's what the prior board chose to do with Mr. Blair. They hired him out there. Traditionally in those offices, we work together very well. The engineers over the years have had that situation back with engineer Reeser and beyond. That's a situation where when they work on something, they can be in touch with us. We can work on things jointly, but we are official legal counsel. We are the ones who approve and review all the contracts. We're the ones who provide the legal opinions as far as, day-to-day things that come up in the office. But that's, that there is, right now you do have a lawyer who's working at the sanitary engineer's office.
There was.
Yeah, but the new board, I mean, you guys know where I'm going with this, because we just asked for a big rate increase today. And somebody's telling me that we're duplicating services.
Yeah, but there was also a situation last year where he went to court and he got us two settlements where he went and did the court case to get us paid back from contractors. So there was
That doesn't
money.
mean that they could have done it.
But they represented both departments, the highway engineer and the sanitary one time, but it was the same guy. It was Randy Smith. Then when Randy left sanitary, the attorney stayed at sanitary, and then Randy hired Jeff Goodman as his attorney at the highway. So then we had both departments had an attorney, and that's the way it's been since then.
I hear you, but once again, we're faced with budgetary problem.
But there's conflicts too. Like we had a situation in I think it was Southington or something, where if a township has a problem with the sanitary engineer, our prosecutor has to recuse himself because he represents both. And they got to get outside counsel. They have them already right there. And that happens quite often.
It can.
I mean, you know where I'm going with this. It's just something I think we need to look at. Once again, I think we have to be responsible to the taxpayer.
So there's no fat off of this 4.4 that we can take off there. That's just.
That is just maintaining status quo essentially. And again, the only thing that I would say is that, those changes that I just talked about, the fact that the DTAC fund is essentially exhausted and the fact that we lost that grant for this year. Those are two big things.
But if we lost that grant,
What did those guys do?
right, then we didn't lose employees, so we're making up for the lost grant in a sense. When we never had them in the first place, except for the grant that was there.
That is true. Yeah, they've been on the last 2 years under the grant.
So again, what do they do?
Well, one of them's an assistant prosecutor criminal division, and the other one is one of our investigators in the office. So, we've got, I think last year we had about 1,000 felony criminal cases come through. And, that was an integral part of the criminal operation.
Is that up or down,
Sorry.
the number of cases?
It's for the past 4 or 5 years, it's hovered right around 1,000 cases, plus or minus, 75, 100 here and there, but it's been right around that same number.
And let's see, move on to where we're at here. 18. Here these ladies are going to be walking out.
Commissioners, common pleas, domestic relations, probate, perfect courts.
And I don't know if there's anything in any of those that we can take away from. You're dealing with the courts. If we take it away and they need it, they mandate it, they get it back anyway. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything there we could cut.
So if you leave the courts as they are, and then we didn't do the commissioners yet, right?
Nope.
So we. So.
I don't know that we can take from the courts. Any opinions there?
95.46. And they all do expect to have something. Last year, we increased the actual 2023 cents by 6%. But that for each of the actual, we didn't look at really kind of what they were requesting. There's a little bit of a hard spot we needed to, they had some areas where they had appropriated or requested, and we did it too because we did the actual, but still it worked, but
Cut a little bit off of.
okay, each of
Is there like a standard percentage to take from all of them, maybe?
maybe.
Like 1% from all of them?
50%.
We're 22% over and we have, what, one?
Or maybe you choose like a dollar amount, so you're doing the same amount on each.
Yeah, but some are only asking for a couple 100,000 for $1 million.
Yeah, the treasurer's office, I mean, they're one of our smallest at 1.3, you take the same amount, then.
I see.
So they're. Well, I would say the ones that are less than the actual.
Did we just skip
kind of
over
leave
clerk
them.
courts or was I not paying attention?
Oh, you guys are, no, you guys were talking, saying give them what they had asked for, and I just felt wasn't, they were asking for, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just looking to see what.
Clerk housekeeping separate, I guess, from the courts.
Clerk of courts is, last year it spent 1.1, or almost 1.2 million, they should ask me for 1.1.
Yeah, they're just asking again for the amendment treasurers and quarters, they're just asking for the increase of the 4% in health insurance. I mean, it's pretty clear on that.
If we were just to cut 1% of all of their asks. With all the court related
See
stuff.
domestic in it, that's 11%. See domestic.
Domestic relations, last year, they were at 5.9, almost $6 million, this year they're asking for 7.5.
He was just here. I think we need to find out why, huh?
That's And he's asking for more than the sheriff's, that's out of our budget, that's not out of his budget, I think that third deputy.
So commissioners, here it is. What they gave you at the budget hearing. Dear commissioners, attached to find a proposed 2025 budget. We have taken all 2024 figures and adjusted to cover current inflationary costs due to needed to accommodate our 2025 needs. There are some exceptions as outlined below. Salaries include level raises and anniversary raises. They also reflect longevity payments, but do not reflect conversion payments and end of year vacation cash buyouts. Salaries include level raises and the anniversary raises for the juvenile division. They also include longevity payments, do not include conversion payments and or end of year vacation buyouts. Please note salary for such and such will be divided by the Family Court Mental Health Recovery Board and Children's Services Board. Detention centers receiving salary raises including anniversary raises. Revenue, October 2024, 32,000 was collected from the Department of Education to reimburse the general fund for the USDA Nutrition National School Lunch Program. And also 55,600 was collected and paid into the general fund from our detention center housing, Ashtabula County juveniles. We have multiple grants coming in.
Skip to the meat and potatoes, we can find it, where this extra 1.5 million.
I'm not, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Projects. They paid roughly 46,000 in renovations, 11,000. Meaning 4,000. I. Two judges, 32, 21. So they have quite a big staff. They have 71 employees, 2 of which are judges.
71 employees?
Yeah, the detention centers, drives the bulk of that. You have to remember, this does include all your detention centers, so. Let me tell you that breakdown. Domestic relations is 16 staff plus 2 judges, juvenile is 32, and again, the detention center is 21 plus 2 vacant positions. That's a total of 71 positions with 2 vacant. I cannot tell what percentage what percentage wage increases they gave, because they do not break it down like that. So I couldn't tell you. Without taking it back and doing it myself.
They're all non-union?
But it looks like they're estimating roughly 2.9 in payroll for the domestic side. No, 1.9 for domestic. Payroll for juvenile, they're estimating 2.9. So that right there is, where we at, 4 million, roughly. And then they are estimating 1.77. I have no idea. I'm not sure what this is at all. So 4, 5, 6. So actually 5. She's not listening.
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
when they said standard rate on, I was kind of looking to see what that would be.
Yeah, okay, Christy. This is family report, right? Plus they have, so they have grants and stuff that's awesome, so.
Or anything yet, it's 1.75 million more.
Yeah, I'm not 1.9 for, I'll just write this down domestic. And I'm just looking at payroll costs. Sorry, you just say operating costs. 2.9 for, what did I say, juvenile? It's juvenile. And then 1.7 for, I'm not sure what. Detention, there it is. Oh, I mean, okay, so alone in payroll, let's just round that to 2, 3, 2, 5, 6. That's 7 million right there. They're asking for 7.5. So
7. Pretty close. Wow, that's right. So
And then they have a quite a hefty list, as you probably heard this morning, of capital expenditures that we're not going to put up there, right?
Well, I think with one of us needs to meet with Sam and look that over a little bit, just let him help us.
If that doesn't count. That supervisors in that, instead of one.
Yeah, that's everybody. With the peer, including, again, a judge, court administrator, two judges, excuse me, Judge Warren, Judge.
They got some whopping salaries there. When you look at what the magistrates make, and the court
And
administrator.
magistrates and court administrators.
Court administrator, I think makes
130.
131.
That's just the wage, that's not hers included in that. But again, I mean, same thing you have in the prosecutor's office, you have Esquires. I mean, that is to be. That's what you're paying for.
Yes, like 24 person per 8-hour shift. Sure. So you're the chairman, you handle that.
I'm gonna tell Judge Blue, Mark, you just knocked 100 grand off your budget.
$500 grand.
And this does happen
I don't think you
every
can
year.
get 500 grand.
I mean,
Happen
we just have
every
to
year,
go
and
back
they
to
do
some
know
of
that
these
we-
things.
We work on it,
You wanna
sometimes
go
we
seven?
are budgets. It points,
Go
once we get closer to the
7.1?
end, and see where we're at with interest and stuff. But they are all used to having their budgets reduced. And this isn't anything new.
Yeah, let's, yeah, take it down.
Seven.
Do your own entry anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, 7, 70. That's 600
Christie,
grand.
what's 9%? Just out of curiosity, because their average, they were actually down a little bit last year.
Circulations was 9, that's over the 3 years.
What would 9% be of, if we put that at 9%, how much is that? I'm so sorry. Can we still do that, just out of curiosity? Oh. Oh,
$600.
okay. Less. Sorry, I
What's
just
that?
wanted to see.
What's 10% there and see what we're at.
What's 10.5? Is it 7 million yet?
No,
That's good.
Let's leave it at that right there, and then let's talk to the judge, and if he let him claw his way back if he needs to.
Well, that's way back.
Good luck with that.
I mean, it's a big chunk of our budget, big chunk.
So let's keep going. Please.
Probate, they're asking for 2.614. Last year they were at almost 2.4. Actual census.
Let's get 2.5.
Comment please. They're asking for a little over 5.1 million. They spent 5.1 million last year. They are like only asking for $5,000 more than what they actually spent last year.
Let's leave it right at that. And hopefully they don't listen.
At what they spent last year or the 5.165?
Right where they.
Realize.
So I thought you meant, but. Clerk reports, asking for 1.4 million, but last year they were like 1.2 million.
And they had the new contract that just. Well, in effect, so 1.4 is not unreasonable.
Okay, county courts, they're asking for 1.649, and last year they spent 1.35.
That both coach,
Eastern and Central, yeah, they're fine.
so how much?
I know they got new computer systems, which was a big thing we had to do for them.
200,000?
300,
yeah. Ish. Yeah.
Yes, it's 275.
Chrissy?
Close, yeah.
They asked for 1.35. Or last year, I'm sorry, last year they spent 1.358.
Go with one
Plug
point
it
five.
in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
1.4, because they don't have very many employees, so any employee raise thing couldn't be that much more. If they're 1.358, we get 1.4, that would account for any raises, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
Limited number of staff.
Hold on, do you want me to look and see? Okay, so this is, we're on clerk, county courts, right?
County courts is central.
Central and Eastern, okay. Did they present?
They
They
did.
did.
Okay, so but separately, right?
Yes.
They were, that's on next week. Central. Oh, yep, sorry. All right, let's. All right, we'll start with Central. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 employees. Six figure 9 employees.
We have a meeting tonight, don't we? 7 o'clock?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
All right, well, Eastern doesn't give a list. Unfortunately.
Really consider that this, what we're doing right now, may be the very most important part of our whole job we have to do for the year. Allocating the taxpayers' money to give them the services, they're gonna be decided by what we decide here.
So there's roughly 20 employees. Okay, so they were at. It's 1.3 last year. And they're asking to go to 1.6. So. We're saying roughly 275 difference, right? Amongst 20 employees with a 4% increase, I mean, that could be. Understandable plus insurance, we keep just talking about the salary, but there's insurance.
Well, it's been at 14%.
Right, so. I. Guess. Try it like 1.5 methodology and see where that takes you.
All right, next,
Commissioners. Asking for 15.6 million, last year spent 9.5.
Yeah.
But we did. I did explain some of that, it's gonna need to be looked at if the maintenance was,
Yes, they were.
maintenance was really high on their estimate.
Very.
They're trying to, they're trying to, account for every eventuality that might happen. If they, like, this might break, but I think they need to realize that we can maybe, if bigger things break, we would go to sales tax for that, like the capital project, but absolutely. We cannot.
what was that, what were we at last year?
9.5. Now that does include the commissioner's office, maintenance, which is building and vehicle and building inspection.
And we just picked up another $500,000 in salary. The auditor was paying, that we're gonna pay now.
No, that's in our,
No,
that's in our code down here.
No,
no,
$1,100.
well, part of it is.
yes, I see what he's saying.
Part of it, but it's
Yeah.
under mine, so
Right.
it's not like,
It's not double, so like you're not gonna see it under yours and
Okay, I
under.
got you,
Right.
I got you.
Yeah, I do see what you're
And
saying.
part of-
Code is
that was-
1,400 or is $1,100.
But
But it'd be for the general fund, not.
Gotcha.
I was really hoping Ransom would be here today because in the Tribune, they quoted that this commissioner's department was human resources. Human resources, it's not out of the commissioner's budget whatsoever, not one.
All right, so we operated on 9.5 last year, is that what we said?
Yes.
I mean, we gotta lead by example. If we're cutting people, we gotta lead by example. And if we got 15.6 up there, and we know in our own office, we're saving money with the
Well,
reorganization thing that we did.
commissioners, your building maintenance department, I mean, completely went to Christie's point.
I'm not even gonna listen to any of what the building maintenance did. We got a different department. It'll be here next month, 2 new bosses.
But you can cut that, there's a number of times, do what you want, but I'm just telling you. You can cut this way down right
Yes,
there and be
that's
done
what
with
I'm
this. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
I think we're all saying the same thing.
What?
And that number also does include, $300,000 in the contingency.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, and we did use that last year, in the beginning of the year before we knew what was happening, if something did occur, we transferred contingency. We didn't come to insurance right away for, minor little things. It did get. $5 million for buildings.
So what's your total?
She said, Kelly, you were between 15 to 17%, you thought.
That, I mean, that's where we need to be.
Where was 17% was? What do you know?
We're 17.
We're 17%.
So instead,
Yeah.
Six.
It should be around 10 or 9 or 10, excuse me. Should. All these numbers, I'm so sorry. I know my glasses. Look very dumb. I can't really see anything. That's,
7.3, that still puts us over budget.
Yeah.
7.4. So
can
we're
we
still
look at what
gonna be
9% would be? Or I'm sorry, not 9, I'm sorry, 15. I'm so sorry.
Like once put it,
That's where I was gonna try to
Yes.
still.
Well, it's sort of,
don't
chip away.
well, we got rid of
And this is
$8 million
the first
there
round,
almost
First
in
round.
the first round. Well, we still got some we skipped too. That's what zero to the parks.
well,
That's
we're-
what it hurts.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, we know we can't cut the building inspection. They're actually asking for less than what they asked for in your spread.
Have another 6 million to go.
How much did we cut so far?
we didn't discuss metro parks.
That's,
sure.
That's meaningless right now. We can do that last. There's still a lot of stuff pending with that.
so how short are we right now?
Still need to cut 6.
6.1.
Where are you gonna get that? Where are you
Well-
gonna get that?
At the,
Oh, we were almost at 15.
on the sheriff's office,
That was
at the
$9
risk
million.
of sounding like anti-police, since I'm not, right? I need to remind the commissioners. Remind the commissioners that, would get. It's my understanding and what I've been told, and verified, what is required and statutory is jail. We're not required statutorily for all of them.
You're not, but I am.
I'm stating a fact statutorily, all right? That's all I'm doing. I'm not making a recommendation. I'm just explaining because that wasn't sure that you realized.
I think it's courts too, statutory. I think it's jail, court security is mandated by orders.
Yes, yeah. The courts, there's.
Well, we either gotta find a pot of money somewhere or we gotta pretty much do exactly what we just did. With almost the same amount, so we dug pretty hard.
And then this too just means that everybody thereafter has to take back this percentage and figure out within their own, line levels, account levels for it. So, that would be very taxing, and we still have ways to go, but that would be very taxing on the current accounts.
So,
You know that, but it is what it is. We gotta do it. But we have to make sure that when you guys are done with this, that it actually gets done, that they actually make the cuts out of their budgets.
And how do you do that?
Communication
I know, but it's still, you're
and
still gonna do what you're gonna do.
monitoring.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of monitoring and
I mean,
checking and.
They need to know.
well, and that was, we hoped to be a little further than where what we're at right now. But, so that's kind of what you guys want us to do now is, there, you want us to go back, however, since you're not completely done cutting, and I wouldn't say that that's the best idea. I would say meet again to go back through this again and cut more. We can certainly individually inquire together, yes, about how specific ones you would want to meet that maybe super, whatever, you guys can decide. It's not.
We'll scroll up a little bit more. I think where we really need to do the investigative work is prosecutor's office, juvenile court. Those are the ones that jump out at us as the big ones.
If I could just ask a really quick question, when we look at the veterans, Christie, that 2 point, so I know that that's what we're mandated. This might sound silly, but I always hear that they don't ask for the full mandated amount.
Right,
Is that truly what we usually give them, or?
this is what they asked for,
Okay.
this is less than what they mandated.
Right, last year they asked for a lot less.
That's what I thought. It did,
Last time
it did
page
jump,
one.
it was about 1 million, I think, right, last year.
Page one is missing. Do you have it?
But the reality is they could ask, yeah, I was, they asked for
Okay,
1.4. Okay, but the reality is they could ask for more than the 2.
The reality is they can ask for 2.418.
Yeah, last year they asked for 1.4.
Yes, they asked for a lot less, and there's 600,000 right there.
I know.
Last year.
Okay, but they could ask for more, so what's the point of trying to mess with that, right? Oh, yeah, that's what, oh, I'm gonna give that back, yeah.
Well, will you give us a copy of that then?
With what we've
Yeah,
updated.
we are right now, yeah, so we sweet, but I don't know. how we're gonna
Do you
check.
want to just?
I can't believe,
Do it save as?
I can't
save
believe
as a-
that that's got
separate.
14 made, that's too.
Doing
Yeah,
December.
yeah, so how did it grow so much?
Since the one
Well,
was not.
You started last year.
6 or 9, what was it last year?
Well, I think the big difference is last year you started with 70 million versus 66 million. So that alone is $4 million more right there, which would have taken our deficit down to
We
2.
didn't have any of these raises. This
Right.
4% didn't exist.
Well, you had legacy
Almost
raises
all the way
and
across the
other
board.
contracts.
No, but from that number.
Yeah.
or-
Gotcha. I see, yeah.
I mean, it's got, just all the raises we're giving this year, that's got to equal almost $4 million. You added all the raises total, for all these unions and all the back pay that we gotta give them. I mean, what is the number for that? It's gotta be close to 4 million right there. And can we anticipate that every year we're gonna need to make 4 million more, 4 million more, 4 million more? I mean, is that what the future is? With the same amount of income or less?
We looked at last year when we had a few things going back and forth, is that our payroll costs are about 70 to 75% of each department. So a lot of these things that are.
General.
Yeah,
general fund,
Just general fund, yeah. I don't care about all the other ones,
Yeah.
just general fund.
I don't blame you.
So it's not like there's not a lot of stuff like supplies and that kind of stuff. This is, I know, wages, PRS, workers' comp, health insurance.
And that's because commissioners, for the first time this year too, you're seeing that we raised that health insurance. We need it. This is assuming the increased costs in health insurance. Had we not done that this year, we would probably be your 6 million that you're
The
still
things
short.
that, the things that I have to
Yeah.
deal with, because I still have a CBA that's on the 18
Right.
rates. My department share.
They're
it would be
detrimental.
across the board.
And they could be detrimental. And I saw that forthcoming, and that's why we had to make those changes. Now you're seeing, the evolution of why we have to make those changes. But again, those are still small drops in the bucket until we get to where we should have. We went 7 years without raising healthcare costs. 7 years. We were eating that cost.
And why wasn't that raised?
I mean, I came a year and a half ago. so-
We didn't have HR, effective HR for quite a while.
Somebody has to be paid, and somebody has to see them get voted.
Nobody was.
2 years we went with nobody.
It
Nobody.
was.
It matters who you have at the collective bargaining table. It matters. You need HR there. HR absolutely has to be there to call these things out, to see what people are putting into contracts, to say absolutely not. You're embedding legacy costs that will hurt us for years to come. And that is exactly what I'm working against right now, Commissioner. We have gotten those out though. So one thing to look forward to, except for some, we have gotten those legacy costs out of the contract. But to do that, that's why we had to give the 442. No matter what, the serve average is 3.33. Over 3 years, that's still 9.5%. So really, we're not far off either way, but that's
And I'm not blaming Martha, because
Yeah.
she's only been here 2
Right.
years. But so the auditor had to be sitting here, seeing these numbers.
I can't,
Somebody
yeah,
had to be, looking at these numbers, saying, hey, guys, we're in the hole, in the hole, in the hole.
Remember that the auditor agreed to that 18% as well with that.
with his own
CBA
contract.
line.
Yep.
And that was that union agreement was created just before I took office.
Also, and I hate
We have to put that stuff out, how,
well, I am gonna
because
tell
they're
you.
gonna ask us, how did we get here?
Well, I am gonna tell you that. So that, and then also the auditors department, when they unionized prior to Martha coming on, is paid 8% higher than everybody here in the county. They're union.
Well, I know, I saw some of the wages.
They gave themselves 8% higher wages than the county pay scale.
And now
Yes,
we're all covered.
that was critical. That's why it matters having somebody at the negotiation
That's what I
table.
mean, I don't want to blame her.
Somewhere.
It wasn't her fault.
No, it wasn't, no.
It was not her fault.
We're all trying to, and we're all of us.
Auditor, when does this budget due?
March 31st.
Okay, well, I think we need to, we did one step. Like I said, this may be the very most important part of our job. I think we need to schedule another meeting for next week and do this again until we get it done.
The second meeting, next week's gonna be harder than today.
They're gonna get harder. Getting elected's easy, governing's hard. Not elected every day.
Tuesday.
It's easy if the ones before us did their job.
Agreed. But here's the thing.
Tony, we're looking back. You gotta look too. We got a new administration.
That is in trouble.
Right, but we're inheriting sins of our fathers. We're inheriting sins that go back 30 years.
You know what, so you have to go the whole story.
I understand, but at the same time, here's what I learned, is I played the hand that I was dealt. I wasn't dealt a great hand,
Yeah.
but I have to keep moving forward. And I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, which is why I've been transparent about my issues, right? So before, we're not done yet. And second,
Tuesday, the 28th. I have a lot of meetings, just CCAO.
okay,
Yeah, I was waiting for you so we can adjourn.
all right.
Okay, so respect this.
Next Tuesday, you probably got CCAO coming here, and I'm not gonna be here. You need
Not yet,
to,
not yet, we're still.
just letting you know.
Oh.
Right. Tuesday, I thought you had CCAO coming, I won't be here.
Well, let me check, let me double check
Okay.
that might have changed.
Let me know tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna have to get down to like postage and gasoline and like, you know, office equipment. That's the only place we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
That's how far we're gonna have to get down to remove it, right?
So, is it Mark?
I think it's Mark.
Mark, I was gonna say maybe Mark.
We'll see if it's confirmed.
That's
I
right.
mean, we're here.
Yeah.
Well, evolution.
Geez, when I came at the start, I'm leaving at start.
It's definitely-
Yeah.
We didn't get here overnight.
You haven't gone home?
Get here overnight. Happy birthday.
We don't.
Dave.
I guess we're looking for. Thanks. You're the chairman.
We need a motion to adjourn. Oh, we're setting a date.
To get together.
But
Yeah.
Wednesday-
Oh, we're not done.
Wednesday-
Commissioners, is that gonna give you enough time to go over the
I-
spreadsheet and
The
talk to
spreadsheet
who you
has
need
been,
to
the
talk
Could have a
spreadsheet
year.
has been- the spreadsheet, today's revised one was sent. You have it. So if you need it printed out, that's.
It's an Excel spreadsheet, so you not the. I sent it, yeah, I sent it to everybody, I sent it to Alex, to Alex. Yeah, I sent it to Alex too. So if you need to play around with it or whatever, it is an Excel spreadsheet.
Well, we do have CCAO coming down here on the 28th to come to our workshop and then meet with us afterward to go over
So
states that we
Wednesday,
could probably get some advice from them too, I'm sure.
So how long do you need?
Well, they're meeting and then they would take us to lunch afterward and give us some education. So that's an afternoon, thing, Tuesday.
Wednesday, no, but I mean, are we saying Wednesday then?
Yeah, why don't we do a Wednesday?
time.
I can come.
I'm sorry, but I won't be here. I have not.
I forgot Christine.
I have morning issues.
Yes.
Well, I'd say Monday, Wednesday or Thursday we do it. If you want to stay after the meeting and do it for 1 o'clock on Wednesday, I'm game for that.
Rather do that because
Yeah.
Thursday's gonna be.
That's fine for me.
Monday then, or I mean Wednesday then?
What time's our meeting? When's our meeting next week? Oh, that's Thursday? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be.
Next week will be Wednesday again. It'll be 10:30 and we've been done by
Here,
11.
tomorrow night, right?
Yes, yes, it's at 7,
So let's say 1 o'clock next Wednesday, call special meeting.
29 at once.
So we're-
Right, it's gonna be like probably right after. regular meeting.
They call for noon and then, yeah. You know.
Who's coming on Wednesday?
You.
CCA
No, I mean-
Tuesday,
CCA?
Tuesday the 28th. Tuesday the 28th.
Who's coming Wednesday?
CCA.
No, nobody, just I.
Oh,
It's
why haven't we?
Go about
The meeting's
the
on the
dance
last.
here.
We're done at 11. We could break, have lunch, start at 1.
Okay.
And give us an extra hour today.
You want a break?
We haven't
I
had
don't
one
wanna
break
break.
yet, Denny.
Yeah, but who knows who comes to the meeting and then like they started a half hour late. That's irresponsible. Because we announced it and we had people waiting. And my phone was blowing up over here. You're not on. What happened to the meeting? You're not on. And we need to kind of stick to that.
Well,
We ran over
you
the
know,
others.
say public comment, yeah, I don't, how do you become, how you, people can't talk, I don't know. I mean, what do you want me to, how do you, did you want us, who do you cut, who do you decide to cut off?
Austin just shut them down.
You don't get to talk, you don't get to talk, you know what I mean, how do you choose?
You know, we may have an executive session next Wednesday with the attorneys regarding this opioid thing. So I'd say 1 o'clock to be safe.
Oh, so.
Should I take it off till next week?
They'll-
Okay.
Yeah.
So you wanna put that in the fridge? Or do so?
Sure.
So that they have any good takes.
Yeah, we better say it, so we're gonna be.
Cold pizza. Well, cold pizza.
We're gonna clean this up.
We're actually.
I burnt my mouth yesterday on pizza, so it was fine for me.
Huh?
I said I burnt my mouth yesterday on pizza.
Yeah.
In the fridge and
Oh, wait.
the microwave.
Sure.
Leave a cup.
Adjourn the meeting?
Motion, yeah, I make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes.